Chase Geyser is a sock puppet for Alex Jones, and he's an absolute moron. And the Hodge twins are not far behind him. I want to talk about a tweet that they put out, that the Hodge twins put out today, that Chase Geyser responded to. The Hodge twins put out a tweet showing an altercation at a fast food restaurant where several black people were fighting with each other. And they said, "I never see white people do this at a fast food restaurant." And then Chase Geyser, the moronic asshole that he is, says, "I've never seen a white person at a fast food restaurant." So that's just an outright lie. He knows it. The only way he would be able to say that is if he's never gone to a fast food restaurant in his life. If you're on planet Earth and you haven't been living under a rock your whole life, you know that there's lots of white people that work at fast food restaurants. And here's where the Hodge twins are also wrong. I was in a brawl when I was a kid and I worked at a fast food restaurant. I lived in a very poor community. A lot of the people that lived there were black. All of my coworkers that night when we got into that fight were also black, but I was white, and I was in the fight too. There's this really ridiculous pushback that's been happening the last couple of years because there was this other absolutely wrong thing where white people in general were being held accountable for all of the other people on the planet's problems. That was insane. That was being pushed by a particular group of people that just also happen to be white, but aren't like us. And they want all of the people who are black, brown, yellow, whatever, to hate a couple of tribes of Israel that are your brothers and sisters because they share the same complexion with the people that actually committed the crimes. Okay, so that's why that was happening, by the way. And that was just as stupid, right? Because a Bosnian immigrant that just left war-torn the Yugoslavia area that was happening like the late 80s and 90s, they get here. Within 10 years, you would not be able to tell the difference unless you like were in the Bosnian community and you like picked up on their nuances, like their cultural stuff, the way they talk, some of their facial structure. Unless you're like really like good at that and you've met a lot of different people around the world, you wouldn't be able to distinguish a Bosnian immigrant who left a war-torn country and came here absolutely broke 10 years later doing decent for themselves. You wouldn't be able to tell the difference between them being a white person and a Bosnian person. There are many people in Iran and Puerto Rico, for instance. There's a gene expression that makes them look almost completely white. Colombia too, and different South American countries, et cetera, et cetera. You wouldn't be able to tell unless you've like really spent a lot of time with different types of people around the world, the difference between them and any regular white person. So to say that white people, white privilege, white people are bad, it's just absolutely stupid on the face of it if you understand gene expression. Okay. That's one. But we're going to focus more on this bullshit happening now in the last couple of years, which is a retarded pushback on this sort of toxic movement that was anti-white. So there's this common misconception now with these idiots that are pushing this trash that the reason black communities are violent is because inherently because of the black people. Now, we have to first understand the difference between an African American and an African American culture, which generationally has been traumatized, abused, taken advantage of, and betrayed, and attacked by a system that has been intentionally subjugating them for hundreds of years. And an African person, or a Caribbean person, or a Mesoamerican person. I say all those because there's theories that black people come from all three of those places. It's not just Africa. You ever meet an Ethiopian person or a Somalian person? Like I've had friends that were Ethiopian, Somalian, Sudanese. Regular, chill-ass people. And so like when people talk about issues between white and black people, it's like, what are you talking about? It has nothing to do with the color of their skin. It has nothing to do with their genome. It has to do with the fact that generationally, the particular tribe of black people that have lived in America have been traumatized, subverted. Every time they tried to make a healthy community, it was sometimes they literally firebombed it. The government and the Ku Klux Klan colluded to destroy Black Wall Street. Black people tried several times to create their own sustainable communities. They were successful, all right? So there's this misnomer that, the really racist people say things like, well, black people are lazy and all that. No, not at all. Black people just tried over and over again to do the same thing that everyone else was allowed to do, and they were sabotaged. They were poisoned. They were infected with diseases. Drugs were put into their neighborhoods. Their neighborhoods were neglected. They were intentionally made poor. When you become poor, so poor that you can't even put fucking food on the table, you're going to resort to crime eventually. And Tupac has a great line in one of his songs about this. My stomach's empty, so I'm looking for a purse to snatch. It's a very deep line, actually. Really, it's an incredibly deep line. And when black people are shoved into ghettos, they're not given any resources. They have this generational trauma that carries on epigenetically through the line. The pain of their ancestors or the pain they feel right now. People don't understand the sign. I'm not saying some fairy tale thing. This is actually true. The trauma, the experiences of their ancestors is written in epigenetic layers on their DNA, and they feel their pain today. There has to be a reversal of that. There has to be a healing. There has to be a funding these impoverished communities and putting a grocery store within walking distance of all the houses in a particular community. And we have to remove some of the fucking liquor stores that pop up on every fucking corner. That's a good start. It's not white people that live today's fault for what happened to black people. Okay? But it is our responsibility, not as white people, as people, as human beings, to help to do something about it and use the actual privilege that we have. Poor white people got nothing to do with that responsibility because they're stuck in a similar situation as poor black people. White people who can adjust laws, white people who can move large amounts of money, white people who can organize large groups of people, have a moral obligation, not because maybe their great-grandfather was a slave owner, but because they're human beings. Namibia is going through a drought right now in Africa. The people might starve to death en masse. They're killing elephants for food. Gives you an idea how bad it is. Why isn't that front page news, front headline on every single news station? Hey, our brothers and sisters of the human species are struggling tremendously in Namibia. Let's all get together and at least bring in enough food for their people, but then possibly bring in some technology so we can try to solve this drought. Perfect real-time example happening in reality right now. Why can't we do that for the African American? It's not get mad and blame white people because they share similar resemblance to slave owners 100 years ago. But it's also not, well, black people overrepresent or disproportionately at fault for crimes that are committed in America. No one's talking about like how we got here and then how we maybe remedy the situation. There's no peace, there's no compassion, there's no love in any of these conversations. It blows my fucking mind. Because what I just said to you is simple. It's easy. We're all human beings. Bad things happen in the past. Let's try to heal each other in the present. But you'll never see me at the top of Twitter or TikTok.